Hi guys, tonight I wanted to do a show on something very serious. A matter of fact, it's something that it I was looking at this story on Monday and it really touched me. What happened here. And this is something that I wanted to do a little deep dive in. So we're talking about the case of Samuel Parsons-Salas. So, you know, just to give you a little background on what happened here, I'll just show you the police report. This offender is charged with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder. So, what had happened here is that he's been charged with three murders plus an attempted murder. And I watched the video of this, and I'll give you a little background of it. So, this guy, and if you look here, he actually was on Prison Pen Pals. He gives you his profile here. He's on Prison Pen Pals. He was serving 11 years in prison and then he was released on parole. And when he was released in parole, he went to Chicago, into the Chicago area, and there he was, and he had a girlfriend, a brand new girlfriend. And I'll go through what happened next. But what's strange about this all, I wouldn't even say strange. What's familiar about this all, he's not a bad looking guy. He's not a bad looking guy. Um, you know, if you look at him in his prison pen pal, he sounds like a articulate guy, all of that stuff. But this guy, as I said, is now charged with three murders plus one attempted murder. And let's go through what the witnesses said happened. So apparently, he had his new girlfriend, just been released from prison on parole. He went to this birthday party, and a young lady was having a birthday party. Apparently, something happened at the birthday party, and Samuel was asked to leave the party. So, upon being asked to leave the party, he waited outside, and this is all captured on CCTV, closed circuit TV. So, he waited outside, an argument pursued outside. And if you look clearly, I don't know if it's clear. Let me see if it's clearer than this. If you look clearly here, you see a gun here. And I won't go through the video. I watched the video, guys, and the video is gruesome. It's extremely gruesome. The suspect on the video shot the first man. Then his daughter, who was having the birthday party, was attending to the person who he shot. He shot another man. Then he walked over and finished killing the person that was laying on the ground, then shot the man's daughter, the daughter who was having the birthday party, in her head. Then he walked over and shot a man on the ground who was lying down. Then someone was hiding behind this van, this white van, and he went behind the van where the lady was in front of the van. He went in front of the van and he shot her. So three people were killed that night. Three. And one person survived it. And I'm saying barely survived. This person shot in her, and it was her birthday party. Now, let's go back to this because this is the important part. Well, not the important part. This guy had up his prison pen pals last year. And his prison pen pals, if you read it, if you read his stuff, I'm starting this profile possibly to meet someone to communicate with and build and form a relationship. If it's in the cards, even if it's just a friendship, because a good friendship can be good for anyone in life. I'm 31 years old. I won't get into all the other different things. He's mixed with black, white, Cuban. He says he says, I've been incarcerated for a little over 11 years now. He enjoys listening to music, watching sports. And, just imagine this handsome guy is there. He's in prison for 11 years. He tells him, he says, if you look in the third paragraph, he says, I consider myself a fun individual. I like to laugh and experience life. I also consider myself to be a thinker. I want to be the best me that I could possibly be. All of that stuff, it sounds good. I don't know if this girlfriend who took him to this birthday party, because he apparently didn't know anyone at this birthday party. He went to this birthday party as a guest of someone, of a woman. And then just because he felt offended, his ego was bruised. He killed three people and I think critically injured another person. And if you look at the police report on it, they're not going to give him bail. This guy's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. And I wanted to go a little further into this to understand how is it that these guys are created. Because the funny part about it is, and it's not really funny, his first crime was a home invasion that he went in, and someone died in that home invasion. They were killed. And his accomplice confessed to the murder, and he was just charged with the home invasion. So that's why he's actually out of prison. So he was let out of prison. And once out of prison, as you can see, and I'll go back to this first one, these three people are now dead. And that woman who you see, as you can see, she has two children. She has left two children who are without a mother. And he killed all three of them because he felt offended at a birthday party. And I wanted to pick up this story because right now, this story is no longer being shown. The last time I saw it was December 14th. I think it happened somewhere around December 12th to December 13th. This is no longer in the news cycle. This is gone. This is washed out of the news cycle. But this happens over and over and over. And over the next few days, I mean, I'm trying to get through quite a bit of some of these things. We need to look at how these sociopaths are created. Because a lot of these guys, they grow up, I'm not going to say how he grew up, but I know people in my own life who I knew grew up in very bad situations. They grew up, a lot of times they grew up with one parent, a lot of times they're single mother, and they grew through a lot of hardship. They go on the streets, and in the streets, they learn how to be fake tough, that type of violent tough. And, you know, worst thing happens to them is that they commit a crime and go to prison, and then prison becomes for these guys like university. They move from being petty criminals to being violent criminals. And something that we need to look at in our own community, because I'll tell you, we don't produce a lot of these guys, but just a few of them in any community creates havoc, especially when we have things like no snitching, all of that stuff. I wanted to shine light on him because one thing I will say, guys, is these are the guys that destroy communities, because what they do constantly over and over and over is that they have a brand of what they consider masculinity or being tough. And that brand involves no one can offend them, no one can hurt their ego. Their ego is worth the lives, three people's lives. And as you can see, these three people are no longer on this earth because this man decided that his ego was bruised. He decided at this pub that, you know, because he was asked to leave the party, to his recompense, his retribution was to kill three innocent people. And as I said, when I went saw this video, it was really it was macabre. It was something that was it looked almost like a thriller movie. And when I watched it and I went through it, I could not show this on YouTube. And how he methodically killed all these people. He killed a daughter tending to her father dying on the ground. He shot her. So one thing I'll say, guys, is as we go through and we look at this, we need to look at how these sociopaths are created. Because these sociopaths, a lot of them, they start as little children. But how is it that they get from these nice little children to this? And a lot of things that I look at is, they're not unattractive people. They're not. They're not. And I can tell you, you know, more will come out about this case. The only problem with this case is that none of these people who were killed are celebrities or anything. So all of this stuff, these people are gone and forgotten. He'll never see the light of day. He'll stay in prison for the rest of his life. But I can tell you the impact that he has caused on these people's lives, and these children who have no parents, a daughter who has lost her father. This stuff really, really, gives me a bad feeling. And we have to look into how these young men are created, because I don't think that these guys are psychopaths. I don't think that there's something genetically wrong with them. I just honestly believe that these are sociopaths who are formed by the community, by the stress that they go through as children, and they have a misguided view of what it means to be a man. And one thing I'll always do with this channel is explain that, if a man is there to protect, provide, and problem solve. And he didn't do any of them that night. What he did was cause harm and cause death and cause destruction. And sometimes I wonder if we, as the men in the community, we have to figure out a lot how to handle this, because supporting people saying no snitching and all of that stuff, this is just allows these guys to fester in a community. I think it's time now people stand against criminality, and that includes no snitching, because snitching is what protects these guys. These guys needs to be outed as early as possible, because these guys, you leave them unabated and look on what they do. These guys belong behind bars as early as possible. If he was locked up for the rest of his life for the first crime that he committed, these three people, there's a fantastic chance that they would be alive. At least we know that they would not have been harmed by him. You know, so I I don't like doing, very sad and grim shows, but I do believe that these victims need to be honored. And I do believe that, these type of stories which are brushed aside, and, they're, triple murder, all of that. Um, I do believe that these type of situations need to be highlighted, and not only that the person is evil and the person is wicked or that, but I think we need a deeper look into how these guys are developed, because you know I cannot imagine someone just casually taking someone else's life. There's something wrong with that. Something wrong with that. And how do you get to that point where? And when I watched the video, it was so sad. So sad to see someone, and terrifying also to see someone so cold and heartless. I'll be keeping an eye on this case, but as I said, this new cycle, these things happen over and over. I understand that Chicago has already had a little over 30 murders, so they're just, they're just 3 of 30, right? you know, as we progress as a people, we have to look into how these guys are developed. And one of the things is we cannot create an environment where they fester. And that's why I'm always against anyone saying no snitching. I can tell you, I will snitch in a second, because the fact of the matter is, these guys are a danger to society. So, guys, I want to leave you with that. When I read the story on Monday, it was something that truly touched me, because for me, I just cannot understand how easily people can take life. That part I'm I still don't understand. And it's something that I grapple with when I see people do this. And I always want like at first I was sad, I was really, really angry by it, because you watch it, it's a 2-minute video. But after the video, after thinking about it, it all went to how are these guys created? And it's something that we need to look at, because especially if you live in an area, that is, urban, an area that, has a bit of wear and tear, and, you know, a lot of poverty, you do see these guys pop up. Now, these guys pop up in the suburbs, but the thing is, in the suburbs or in mainstream society, these guys are pointed out very quickly. So they go to jail very quickly. And some of them, they go under the radar and they do something crazy. But we all need to figure out why. Why, what is in the mind of a criminal like this, and how were they developed? And something I want to look at a little more, because I think that Once we understand how they were developed, we can help understand how, you know, the rearing of children, how dealing with other folks on the street, how all of those things, you know, how we can help to not have these situations happen. Because these situations, I can tell you, it's saddening. It's saddening. And to the families who lost these, you know, lovely people, you know, my heart goes out to them. My heart really goes out to them, because it could have been anyone. Because just imagine, you have a birthday party, you invite a female friend, and that female friend takes a monster to that party. You have no clue that this monster is there. He's behaving a fool. You tell him to leave. Anyone would have done that. But how did it end the night with three people dead and one person struggling for their life? That part is all on this man, Samuel Parsons-Salas. So I'll leave you guys with this. I mean, I plan to do more upbeat shows, but you know, out of respect for, you know, these three victims and the person who's struggling and fighting for their life, you know, we need to call out these things. Thanks, guys.